A loud male voice comes from the mansion, almost shouting something about money. It belongs to our hero, whose name is Forrest, and he wants to make money. 2 weeks ago, he was the son of the richest man in town, and now he allows himself to think about prison. Because Forrest is $2 trillion in debt and is being threatened with jail. After his father's quick death, Chimera Corp passed to this guy, and he realized the cruelty of this world. When the phone's ringtone sounds, Forrest happily answers after reading the name that appears on the screen. But the girl on the other end says that she successfully passed her exams, and so they break up. The guy, stunned and screaming loudly, hesitates for just a couple of moments, trying to come to his senses. And then he asks why he is saying such cruel things so suddenly, and the girl reminds him of Forrest's debts. He says that he understands and asks her to return half of the money that he previously gave her. Instead of answering, the interlocutor disconnects, and Forrest, cursing, plops down on the sofa. And then he turns to his mother, saying that he only has her pendant left, the rest has been pawned. Looking at the accessory, the guy says in a depressed tone that he is finished, and calls the situation terrible. But the very next moment he slams his hand on the table, noting that tears won't help here. And he comes to the conclusion that he needs to come face to face with harsh reality. There are still 6 months left before the trial, and only that woman can save Chimera Corp. Forrest is confident that if he can persuade her, he will have a chance, and he is not going to give up quickly. The CEO of Galaxy Group is Blue Sheet, and it's not without reason that she's nicknamed the Queen of Work. Forrest thinks about her goal, remembering that in just a quarter she made the company profitable. His stream of thoughts is interrupted by a strong jolt, causing him to be taken aback and cry out in surprise. Asking the girl if she has any problems, the guy is mentally amazed by her power. She remains silent, forcing Forrest to go his own way, thinking about the strangeness of this stranger. The latter also goes about her business, and arriving at the right place, stops. With the appropriate sound, the girl opens the case and voices her thoughts out loud. Boat states the fact that she was almost discovered because she is a hired killer. By meticulously arranging and adjusting the necessary equipment, the girl finds her target. She is Blue Sheet, next to whom is her faithful bodyguard named Cam. Noticing the woman, Forrest addresses her heatedly and states his name, but is quickly interrupted. Cam tells the guy to get out of the way, but he doesn't give up trying to get through to the businesswoman. Pushing the bodyguard aside, Forrest shouts at her, asking her to let him pass. It turns out that she doesn't like such rudeness, and she immediately causes the guy's bewilderment. Cam throws him away, telling him to get lost, and Forrest notices that she threw him in the wrong place. And at that very moment, the mercenary fixes her gaze on her target, preparing to make a deadly shot. After all, no one and nothing obscures the view, and it's impossible to even imagine more favorable conditions. As Forrest's body lurches forward, Blue realizes what just happened. The bodyguard, who also noticed what happened, mentally tries to figure out where the bullet came from. Boat, however, begins to wonder, puzzled, if she's shot the wrong target again. While Blue tries to bring him to his senses, the boy mentally reflects on what happened. Along with the softness, Forrest clearly feels that he is losing consciousness and believes that he is dying. He reflects on how unlucky he is, recalling how he got into debt and now lost his life. Seeing the palace in front of him, Forrest assumes that he will not end up in hell after all. Some windows appear before his eyes, and the guy tries to understand what is happening. Looking at what is written, Forrest comes to the conclusion that he has only 1 hour to live. In the hospital corridor, voices can be heard, amazed by the resilience of the guy who received a through-and-through wound. Opening his eyes, Forrest thinks that it seems that that system was just a figment of his imagination. Blue expresses joy that the boy is alive, saying that she is very grateful to him for saving her. Forrest changes his mind and is puzzled by the fact that he only has an hour to conclude a contract. That's why he doesn't waste time asking his interlocutor to become the president of the Chimera Corporation. Blue says she's considering resigning, but since Forrest is asking her, she might consider it. The guy thanks his interlocutor, but asks her to do it within an hour. Otherwise, the outcome will be disastrous. A voice nearby warns the guy that there is no point in running, he needs to pay. Dark, the leader of the Galaxy Group, promises to find an interlocutor in any corner of our galaxy. Saying that Blue is his person, the blonde tells Forrest to stay away from her. This irritates the guy, and Dark, smiling, adds that he has no chance. After this, the man falls to his knees, holding out flowers to Blue and speaks in a solemn tone. He proposes to a woman, promising a carefree life without needing anything. But she asks her interlocutor to stand up immediately and reminds him that they will not succeed. The blonde asks if this woman really wants to betray their company so easily. Blue asks again. At that very moment, a sharp pain pierces her head, and the woman stumbles, barely managing to stay on her feet. Cam arrives in time to inquire about the lady's condition, and she says that the pains are coming more often. Deliberately dropping flowers on the floor, the blonde tells Blue not to play the victim. He offers her a choice where she can either become his wife or his enemy. but the woman stands her ground. Hearing such a categorical refusal, Dark remembers that he gave this woman a chance. Shielding her mistress with her body, Cam asks the man to calm down, and he reminds the girl of her place. Saying that it is he who pays the bodyguard's salary and not Blue, Dark resorts to threats. Hearing familiar words, Forrest realizes that she is one of the targets of his contract. Meanwhile, the blonde closes the distance between them, calling Cam a vile creature. But Forrest is not going to silently watch such boorish behavior towards women. He orders her to take her hands off her, and Dark, instantly switching over, begins to insult him. Forrest doesn't even think before he strikes, while simultaneously asking his opponent to be more polite. Blue states that the guy punched the leader of Galaxy Corp. Cam considers it a disaster. Bursting into tears, the blonde says that his father will not let this incident go unpunished. But Forrest continues his actions, saying that he doesn't care about this old bastard. He drives the blonde away, and the latter, running away, promises that his opponent will regret this. Watching all this, Blue admits the thought that she likes this powerful guy. This has a decisive influence on her reflection on the topic of the recent conversation. And Blue, holding the contract in her hands, informs Forrest that she has made a decision. Overcome by emotion, the guy calls her his goddess, and his interlocutor is mentally perplexed. After successfully signing the contract, Forrest's life is extended by another 7 days, and Blue, standing behind him, gasps, saying that she's starting to feel dizzy again. The guy manages to catch her in time and leans over the woman, asking a question. Forrest asks what's wrong with her, and Blue expresses concern about her headaches. Recalling the rewards given by the system, the guy says that he can help by giving a massage. Blue trusts Forrest, but Cam is dubious about this idea, because even the specialists didn't help. To this, the guy replies that his own technique is unique and uses the system's reward. The woman immediately jumps up in place and lets out a long moan, as if from pleasure. Her body booster is puzzled, wondering if it really feels that good. Blue is relieved that her headache is gone, but Cam becomes even more confused. The system reports an increasing intimacy score when a woman thanks Forrest. But then her serenity disappears without a trace when Blue remembers something very important. Showing the flash drive, she says that it contains information about Forrest's father. The latter asks again, and Blue explains how she managed to obtain this information. And then she says that she suspects that Forrest's father was killed. She did not remember it because of the pain. While Blue suggests going to the police, the boy promises to take revenge on his father's killer. Nothing foreshadows trouble as they walk down the hospital corridor, but suddenly companies block the way. Boat says that she can't hide now and suggests that the woman simply accept her death. Cam pulls out his weapon, saying that this is the same sniper who shot Forrest. Looking at the girl, the latter asks if she needs any help. In response, the bodyguard asks the couple to leave quickly, promising to detain the hired killer. Grabbing her savior's hand, the businesswoman urges him on, but he is still lost in thought. They manage to take just a couple of steps before what they see makes them stop. The guys, who seem to appear out of nowhere, start giggling arrogantly, showing their superiority. And one of them, called the Black Star Assassin, says that they will not leave this building. But literally the next moment, dull sounds begin to be heard in the crowd of enemies. While some of the enemies scream, others turn around in bewilderment at the beaten ones. The whole point is that Cam is scattering them in different directions, promising to clear the way for the lady. She says that as long as she is here, no one will dare to lay a finger on Blue Sheet. When the bodyguard appears nearby, the assassin is amazed by the girl's experience. However, instead of hitting him, Cam's weapon lands nearby. The assassin looks at the girl with confusion, wondering how this could have happened. And the bodyguard, who herself is not delighted with her mistake, mumbles something unintelligible. Forrest slaps his forehead in dismay, amazed at the girl's awkwardness. And the assassin takes advantage of the moment, advising that with such insignificant skills, it's better not to stick your neck out anywhere. Screwing a silencer into the pistol, he tells Blue to give him the flash drive the easy way. Assuming that the assassin was hired by Dark, the woman promises to pay him twice as much. The opponent says it's not about the money, they want the flash drive and maybe Blue's life. Feeling that he has no other choice, Forrest believes he has to take a risk. He activates the Blue Shield Goddess, requesting divine speed. And at the moment when the enemy shoots, Forrest manages to save the woman from being hit. Everything happens so suddenly that Blue belatedly gasps, and the guy asks her to be careful. Boat can't believe how this guy manages to dodge every single bullet. The Black Star Assassin also can't figure out how Forrest does it and hesitates for a while. And then he says that he doesn't believe that with his perfect accuracy, he can't hit the target. Having given in to his emotions, he only comes to his senses when he realizes that he has run out of ammunition. The assassin fearfully asks who he is, and the enemy tells him his real name. And the next moment, Forrest delivers a blow to someone else's face. The assassin is taken aback, wondering why he wasn't hurt. And he comes to the conclusion that this guy can only run fast, but not fight. As Forrest is sent flying back by the force of his opponent's blow, Blue screams out his name. The woman asks the guy if he is okay, and he says that his opponent is too strong. Forrest laments that his only advantage is speed, wishing to master martial arts. Dejected, he doesn't even understand at first what happened just a second ago, and then he asks what Calm is doing, and she suggests trying to combine their abilities. And the enemy, with his pistol already reloaded, says that he will not allow this to happen. Forrest asks the girl to aim at the hand to knock the weapon out. Cam agrees. Their plan is crowned with success on the first try, much to the displeasure of the assassin. And immediately after that, without even thinking about retreating, the pair immediately launches a series of mobile attacks. The mercenary who is watching this can barely make out all the movements and is puzzled by this. Seeing that the enemy is exhausted, Forrest asks his partner to finish him off. But as soon as the girl's weapon gets dangerously close to its target, the blow is blocked. Of course, their current opponent turns out to be a hired killer, who has no intention of sitting on the sidelines. Moreover, Boat moves from defense to more active actions, depriving opponents of an advantage. Saying that she is too clever, Cam says that he won't be able to defeat this girl, but she has a different strategy. And Blue asks not to save her, but to show the flash drive to the police. Telling her hostage to shut up, the mercenary urges her bodyguard to give her the flash drive. Unable to stay away, Forrest takes the initiative and asks for Blue to be released. The mercenary orders them to keep an eye on the woman, saying that she must check the contents of the flash drive. Blue can't believe the guy just gave away the flash drive with important information. And Forrest counters by saying that this woman's life is much more important than a flash drive. He considers himself obligated to first and foremost deal with the company's debts, and the rest will follow. The mercenary throws the woman away from herself, as if she were some kind of useless thing. Blue suggests leaving this place as soon as possible, and the guy asks them to follow him. The woman, obeying the request, mentally assumes that she has chosen the right person. Meanwhile, turning to Black Star, Boat says that she has completed her final mission. The man agrees with the words that she did a good job, but is interested in something else. Specifically, the redhead is concerned about the reason why the girl let her opponents go. Boat justifies herself by saying that she always keeps her promises, so she couldn't do otherwise. When the girl is about to leave, she is stopped by the sound of a gun being pulled. And as soon as she manages to turn around completely, an unbearable pain pierces her shoulder. Black Star says that she can't let go of someone who knows so much information about the organization. And with a wish for her quick death, the assassin shoots the unarmed woman. But out of nowhere, a blade appears in the girl's hand, rushing towards her offender. Somehow, miraculously, he doesn't even understand how, the Black Star manages to evade. Jumping onto the windowsill, Boat breaks the glass with his weight and finds himself outside. The assassin orders his friends to immediately catch up with and capture the girl. They cannot let her go. Forrest breathes a sigh of relief that Blue has taken over the company. Now he can relax. When he looks up, he suddenly freezes, stunned by the picture spread out before him. And all because just a couple of meters away from him lies that very girl. Looking at her, Forrest screams, asking where she came from in this place. The thought of a hospital flashes through his mind. But the guy doesn't have the money to pay the registration fee. Forrest thinks that during these 7 days he must rely on the points given by the system. But he doesn't want to let such a beautiful girl die even in exchange for his own life. The guy hopes that this beauty will be able to thank him before he dies. And appealing to the system, Forrest begs it to help provide assistance to the poor and unfortunate one. The guy finds it convenient that with just one thought the necessary object appears in his hand. Well, the miracle medicine is already beginning to work, penetrating under the girl's skin. After just a couple of moments, Boat slowly opens his eyelids. Looking at the healed wound, Forrest notes that there is not even a scar left in its place. The girl asks if he has seen enough, and the guy is frightened by her sudden awakening. The next moment he admits that he was only trying to save her life. Thinking the guy is playing dumb, Boat asks if he really doesn't recognize her. Forrest says he doesn't remember them meeting, and Boat realizes she's lost her mask. She asks where she is, the guy answers, specifying how the girl ended up in his house. Looking around, Boat approaches the door he likes, tearing off the seal. She says she's going to live here, and Forrest remarks that this is trespassing. But the girl doesn't get flustered here either, saying that she can pay for the rent of this place. Forrest immediately changes his mind, saying that Boat can stay here as long as he wants. The guy thinks that while he is in trouble, this is a great way to earn some extra money, and he is glad that now he will not have to worry and experience the need for food. He has 2 ways to increase his lifespan, one of which is to enter into a contract. The second is the exchange of intimacy points with the goddess who has entered into the contract. Forrest dials Blue's number, intending to increase points with her, since they already have a contract. The guy invites the woman to have coffee together, but she declines, saying she is busy. The sound of his interlocutor disconnecting makes Forrest mentally curse. Opening the corresponding system window, the guy wonders who Boatneck is, And of course, of these two ladies, the guy chooses the one he knows, Cam Wildplum. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the hired killers, the boss scolds his subordinates. He asks why they are so useless and couldn't complete such a simple task. The boss is dark, and the woman who approached him asks the blonde to calm down. Grace is the president, and she advises her interlocutor not to let them spoil their mood. The man asks how he cannot be worried if Blue has already sought police protection. Elegantly lowering herself onto the armrest, the woman turns no less gallantly to her interlocutor. She says she has a plan on how they can resolve this matter. Dark clarifies the details. The woman suggests targeting Blue's bodyguard, as they have a very close relationship. And somewhere in the shopping mall, this same bodyguard asks Forrest why he called her here. The guy, smiling sweetly, says that he would like Cam to become his bodyguard. The girl answers almost without thinking, and the guy, hearing the agreement, cannot believe his happiness. Cam asks for 1 million, and then she will fulfill the request. But Forrest reminds her of her situation. The girl asks not to disturb her if there is no money, and the guy shouts that it is not only about money. Unable to reach his interlocutor, Forrest catches up with her and puts his hand on her shoulder. And the very next moment he is perplexed as to why the ground suddenly disappeared from under his feet, and the bodyguard throws her failed employer into the nearest bushes. And he thinks that at this rate, he won't be able to sign a contract with this girl. After 6 days, a dejected voice is heard in one corner of the Chimera estate. Forrest believes that this is the end, and his life will end at midnight tonight. They approach him, praising the house, but the guy doesn't see the point in it, because soon everything will be sold. But then it dawns on him that this voice belongs to his goddess, who has come to him after all. Blue says that she has been dealing with Chimera's debts all these days, talking in more detail about her successes. She says that this is just the tip of the iceberg, but is forced to stop. Forrest says he doesn't need money, he just wants to see the woman herself. She admits that she also wanted to see the guy, and her intimacy increases by 10 units. Then a voice is heard from the kitchen, informing him that his dinner is ready, and Forrest shudders in surprise, because he had completely forgotten that there was a tenant in his house. Blue's intimacy drops when she says what a great girlfriend this guy has. And Forrest, realizing that he didn't have time to exchange the intimacy points, which were deducted again, makes excuses. Looking at his smartphone screen, Blue gasps, and his interlocutor asks what happened. Seeing the photo, Forrest asks why Cam went to the illegal underground fighting club. Blue assumes it's to earn money for her sister's medical expenses. The guy suggests calling the police, but the woman is afraid for her bodyguard. Forrest says he'll go with Blue, inviting her to see what tricks Dark is capable of. And while he thinks about how difficult it was to get this woman, she agrees. Boat quietly remarks after them that not a day goes by without some kind of incident. Meanwhile, in the boxing gym, the spectators are going wild, cheering for their favorite. Noticing the girl's movement, someone says that she is about to kick. The opponent is seriously puzzled when Cam misses again. He laughs, asking his opponent if she is the female version of the blind monk. When she is thrown back again, Blue and Forrest arrive to check on the girl's well-being. Cam asks in turn why they are here, and the guy asks her to become his bodyguard. The girl considers this extremely stupid, because she was literally just almost killed. Saying they don't have much time, Forrest asks Cam to sign his contract as quickly as possible. When she asks how he is going to help her, the guy is already reading the terms of this deal. Saying that he has a plan, Forrest tells the girl not to worry. And taking the card he just received from his inventory, he uses it on the bodyguard. And at that very moment, the enemy's fist appears dangerously close to her head. But it doesn't achieve its goal, causing the opponent to involuntarily ask a question full of surprise. When he asks how she was able to dodge, the girl already feels the changes that have taken place in her. As Cam strikes her opponent, she hears the stunned gasps of the spectators, amazed by her change. Well, the girl is not going to stop, sending her opponent to the knockout. Delighted with his accomplishments, Cam notes that he can now pinpoint the target's location again. When she calls Forrest amazing, the girl's intimacy increases by 10 units. Blue says that she bet everything on her friend's victory and won 80 times more. Forrest praises the woman and generally thinks that this day is truly amazing. Cam says that she is now this guy's bodyguard and will protect the Chimera Company. The commentator asks viewers to pay attention to the gesture of the defeated man, who is about to surrender. Cam turns to the man standing next to him, suggesting that he rise if he wants to fight. The commentator says that this participant has won 98 matches in a row. Those present rejoice, believing that the girl will not win this fight. In response to Blue Forest's concerns, he says that if the situation gets dire, he will intervene. Cam herself believes that it doesn't matter how tall the opponent is. In a fight, skill decides everything. She hits the man right in the abs several times, but he doesn't care. Instead, Bomber grabs his opponent by the neck and pushes her back. And then, throwing her on the floor, he says that this little girl thinks too highly of herself. He's about to bring Cam down to earth, and the host is commenting on the big guy's actions. The girl mentally addresses her sister, apologizing to her and telling her about her limits. Well, Dark turns to Forrest, pointing out what happens when he is insulted. The guy doesn't understand why the blonde is acting so arrogantly and isn't going to let Cam lose. That's why Forrest shouts at the girl to grab the rope. She hears it perfectly well even through the pain, but following this recommendation itself is far from easy. But a plan comes into the girl's head, and she moves her leg closer to herself, looking for support. And putting the last of her collected strength into the blow, the bodyguard makes a lunge. But that's not all, as this technique is not just an attack, but a way to jump back. The announcer says Bomber is going to use his signature punch, and realizing that it was an air bomb, the girl involuntarily turned around. Literally a moment later, the ring is filled with volleys of exploding shells. Bomber, having landed on the ground, peers closely into the haze, trying to make out the fallen one. There is some movement from the side that does not go unnoticed by him, and Forrest says it's now his turn to take part in this battle. Blue asks the guy to be careful, but he asks her not to worry, assuring her that he can handle it. The ringing of the gong notifies the spectators of the beginning of the battle, and allows the opponents to begin the fight. Bomber strikes first, but misses his target, leaving everyone stunned. Having easily dodged the previous attack, Forrest asks him if that's all. Now the guy attacks, but the opponent remains motionless, as if the other guy's blow was worth nothing. But Bomber also fails to achieve his aim, as he cannot hit a fast-moving target. The commentator recounts this, noting that the man with the mohawk is starting to get tired. The same one, together with the next blow, orders the enemy to stop running away. A loud gong sounds through the room and a male voice is heard. Dark shouts at Forrest, telling him that he must fight or he will automatically lose. Blue realizes the guy doesn't know how to fight, and Cam says there are no such rules. The blonde responds by saying that this is his territory, and therefore he sets the rules on it. Reassuring his ladies that everything is fine, Forrest intends to play by Dark's rules. Cam only just manages to start speaking when her neighbor shouts over her, reminding the guy to be careful. Someone in the audience remarks that if Forrest doesn't dodge the air bomb, he will die. But the guy has a plan for this case, and he puts it into action by activating the Divine Fist. At that very moment, Forrest felt his body fill with a strength he had never experienced before, and the guy intuitively, pouring most of it into his fist, strikes his opponent. He no longer says anything in response about the opponent's insignificance, and it doesn't work. And Dark, stunned by what just happened, cries out in disbelief. The unbidden words about this guy knocking out the bomber with just one blow escape against his will, and a pleased Blue tells Forrest that they made 80 billion today. But she stumbles, seeing a picture that for some reason makes her heart ache unpleasantly. Laughing loudly, her bodyguard tells the guy that he is very strong. And then the girl kisses Forrest on the cheek, and her intimacy increases by 50. Blue herself can't understand why, and since when exactly she became sick of looking at this couple. Deliberately unclenching her fingers, the woman lets go of the card, but it is suddenly quickly caught. Forrest sincerely thanks Blue, and she responds, albeit politely, sparingly. And then the guy suggests that both beauties go home. But as soon as they manage to take a step, a male voice stops the company. Dark asks if Forrest really thinks he'll let him take his winnings. The interlocutor counters these words with a question whether the blonde thinks he can stop him. He says that even if he himself doesn't know how to fight, he has 28 professional fighters. Then Forrest invites him to see what these professionals are capable of. The only sounds that can be heard from the brawl are the sounds of blows, and its participants fly off in all directions. Dark, watching this, wonders how this guy knows martial arts so well. Forrest tells him that it's better not to stand in his way, to which the blonde begins to lament about the losses. His interlocutor says that it is now his money, and Dark, breaking into a scream, turns to the star. He, pointing a pistol at the enemy, says that this time he will not let him go. Letting go of the blonde, Forrest instinctively recoils and speaks up, sounding less confident. With a groan, the guy suggests out loud that he has serious problems with the ladies. Preoccupied with what's happening below, no one notices that Black Star is being targeted. And the assassin is already hit, knocking the pistol out of his hand along with a scream. Cam, however, notes with delight the fact that someone is helping them, and Boat mentally addresses Forrest, suggesting that this be considered payment for saving her life. Noticing movement to the left, the guy tenses up, not understanding whether it was a savior or an enemy. But he quickly pulls himself together, telling Cam that this is a great opportunity for a counterattack. Even with injuries, the bodyguard is not inferior to the Black Star fighters, and even surpasses them. Forrest, while taking control of an enemy, jokingly asks to borrow the enemy's pistol. By firing several shots one after another, the guy wounds his opponents. Cam is amazed that he can shoot a pistol, and he says that the rich have their own quirks. As Forrest steps on Black Star's chest, the mercenary begs him for mercy. The guy asks if he really thinks that after attacking him, he will let his enemy go. Hearing that the assassin can exchange valuable information for his life, Forrest tells him to speak. The interlocutor obediently begins to speak, reporting that the killer of the boy's father is Dark. The latter, turning sharply, curses and asks if the assassin has really decided to betray him. Forrest no longer even hears these words and the following ones, pronouncing the name of the killer with hatred. While calling him by less than flattering comparisons, the guy at the same time delivers a swift blow. It turns out to be so powerful that the blonde flies back a respectful distance, crashing into the wall. When Dark hits the stone surface hard, all the air leaves his lungs. The body, unable to cope with such a powerful pressure, collapses, losing the ability to move. But Forrest doesn't let the blonde fall to the floor completely, holding his father's killer in the air. The guy says he will avenge his dad's death, and his interlocutor, stuttering, asks him not to take revenge. Forrest jerks him towards himself, leading him along and ordering him to tell everything he knows. Black Star asks Dark not to blame him for betrayal, because he is simply following orders. The man doesn't have time to finish his sentence because a gun barrel appears in front of him. Turning to Black Star, Boat remarks that he has betrayed his comrade again. And not allowing the traitor to say anything in his defense, the girl fires. She thinks that this man's body will be a clear message for Grace. Dark politely asks not to do anything to him, saying that he has already told everything he knows. Forrest, thinking that this position is really good, asks the blonde to continue in the same spirit. After sending a photo to Star Plum, the guy calls him and asks if the other guy has seen the photo he sent. On the other end, they say that Dark told him everything, and they promise that Forrest will pay for everything. The blonde man's father promises to fulfill his interlocutor's demands before he harms his son. He, taking advantage of the moment, orders Star to hold a press conference and tell the truth at it. The chairman of the Galaxy Group hesitates for only a moment before expressing his agreement. As he ends the call, the man tells his assistant to notify the media about the upcoming press conference. As the lock on the cell door slams shut with a corresponding clang, a protest is heard from inside. Forrest tells Dark to just sit inside and come out tomorrow after his father makes a statement. Knocking on the door, the blonde asks not to leave him alone, as he is afraid of the dark. Boat tells Forrest that she has made soup and invites him to try the dish. Flattered, agreeing and thanking the girl, the guy takes the bowl and sips with anticipation. Forrest asks if Boat has seen the ceramic jug, and the girl interrupts and says yes. When the guy hears that she made soup from the seasoning that was inside, he gets scared. The thing is that inside was not seasoning, but the ashes of Forrest's father, and he apologizes to him. Boat says she was joking, but in reality she moved the jug to another room. The guy is puzzled. Later, at the altar, Forrest asks his late father for a blessing. The guy moves the panel in front of the tombstone, which turns out to be a hiding place. Taking the blade, Forrest, also addressing his father, tells him that he will lend him their family heirloom. It takes the guy about a day to think over his plan, and the next day, he plans to implement it. Right at the exit, Boat stops Forrest, and he asks her in surprise what happened. She straightens his wrinkled clothes, and the guy says that she might have to move out soon. But even hearing that he might not return, Boat says he will wait for Forrest. Star says he's holding this press conference to say something important. Cam says she has already contacted the police, and they are ready to make an arrest after the truth is revealed. As the man begins to make his announcement, he pauses dramatically before continuing. And then he declares that Forrest kidnapped his son, and the guy is convinced that he is right. Saucechain, a police officer, asks the guy to come with them for questioning, because there are suspicions. Star gloats, claiming that he has already sent his men to free his son. Forrest rhetorically asks what is the point of living if he cannot avenge his father. Taking his weapon out of his pocket, the guy thinks that the moment of reckoning has come. However, instead of a family heirloom, a completely different object ends up in Forrest's fingers. Blue, who is nearby, cries out in delight, happy to find her flash drive. The video played on the laptop clearly shows those involved in the murder of Father Forrest. Looking at this terrible picture, the guy can barely hold back tears. At the end, Forrest states the fact that Officer Chain now knows who the killer is. People around him begin to discuss this man, amazed at his hypocrisy and inhumanity. Star asks the police officer not to shoot, telling her that he is surrendering. Forrest understands that even an arrest will not help punish a man with such connections. And furiously shouting the name of his enemy, the guy says that he will avenge his father. Forrest stumbles out of nowhere, and everyone who sees it holds their breath. And the person standing right next to him is completely perplexed as to how something like this could have happened. He is even more surprised by Forrest's next action, which is part of the young man's plan. Even though the gun is empty, it is enough to confuse Officer Chain. Backing up his words with actions, Forrest pretends to beg his opponent for mercy. Sauce asks Star to drop the weapon immediately, otherwise she will be forced to open fire. A denial comes out of the man's mouth, which helps the girl's warning come to fruition. The others, inspired by the example of the first shooter, are also not going to lag behind. And the stunned officer asks who shot first because she didn't give such an order. The man lying on the floor tries to get up, and at the same time begins to giggle evilly. Star says he's not the only one dealing with this guy's family, the rest can't be defeated. As he breathes his last, Cam asks how Forrest is, and he says he's fine. Blue says the first shot came from the building across the street, and the guy asks again, surprised. He begins to think that there is more to his father's death than meets the eye. Meanwhile, a familiar voice is heard nearby, addressing Forrest. Officer Chain says the suspicion that the boy kidnapped Dark has not yet been removed. Saying that they are going to search his house, the girl tells Forrest to go with them. The subordinates inform their officer that there is nothing suspicious inside. The house is clean. Tapping the surface next to her, the girl notices that there might be a hiding place here. When Sauce talks about finding the mechanism, Forrest tenses up because she's right. The police manage to find a secret room, and the deputies notice that someone is there. Grabbing Forrest's hand, the girl says that she sympathizes with the situation he is in. But if someone breaks the law, then they are obliged to face the consequences. And then Boat speaks up, asking his supposed master why he returned so late. The police officer is confused, not much different from the gentleman himself. She says it's time for them to leave, while Forrest tries to justify himself. While it's better than prison, his reputation is tarnished, and Boat asks how the guy will thank her. Forrest says he can offer her his body, and the girl calls him a pervert. The guy asks about Dark's whereabouts, and learns that the prisoner is in the attic. Forrest begins to praise the girl, but stops short when the door to the attic opens. Pausing in surprise, the boy asks why Boat killed him. She says that it wasn't her, and touching the blood, comes to the conclusion that Dark was killed before their arrival. Forrest is puzzled to notice that the front door has been locked the whole time. Showing the place where the killer is hiding, the girl quickly throws something there. She does this along with the words that the killer is right there. Pulling back the bolt, the guy asks how everything could have happened so quickly. Boat assumes that this killer must be first class to be able to pull off such a thing so quickly. When asking why Forrest stopped, the girl hears in response that the guy is stuck. Boat is about to continue on her own, and the guy asks her to stop fidgeting. At the same time, he says that the girl's breasts are too close to him, and she calls Forrest a vulgarian, and he retorts, saying that he meant something completely different. Saying that she took care of Dark, Boat is confident that no traces of his presence will be found here. Forrest asks who it could be, to which the girl asks him not to ask such questions. She is confident that the less the guy knows, the better it will be for him. But he does not agree with this arrangement. He is not afraid of death and wants to know the enemy in person. Boat says that Star was killed by Gold Outstanding, and the man who killed his son is named Wave Lather. They both belong to a group called Ocean, whose influence is beyond imagination. Hearing a familiar word, the guy screams, asking again for the name of the group. He recalls that his father mentioned her when they wanted to recruit him there. Meanwhile, members of this very society are holding a meeting at the Dragon's Head Club. Hey Strongneck asks Grace why she doesn't explain the situation. She talks about the elimination of the father and son Great, summing up that now they can be calm. Ginger thinks Forrest is a ticking time bomb because he's not dead yet. Great doesn't consider this a problem, since the interference can always be eliminated. To everyone's astonishment, the president of C-City Bank intervenes in the conversation with a categorical refusal. Bridge reminds those present that Forrest still owe them a lot of money. The others pick up the conversation, starting to say how much this guy owes to each of them. The woman names a sum which, although not greater than the others, is still quite significant. Ginger points out that with such large debts, it would be more rational to get rid of Forrest. Bridge tries to object, but she is interrupted by someone offering their own solution. Haystrong calls on colleagues to vote, raising their hand to get rid of Forrest. When hands go up in the air, it's clear that the issue has been resolved. Haystrong tells Ginger that Grace has lost several people and is being followed. His interlocutor promises to ensure that the agreed mission is completed. Forrest is asked when they will get a car, or at least a motorcycle. After all, riding a bicycle doesn't correspond to the guy's status. It reminds him of his debts. And he says that as soon as they pay them off, they will be able to afford to buy a car. Cam says he wants to visit his sister, who is having surgery today, and Forrest promises to join. Dr. Cypress reports that resuscitation attempts were unsuccessful and the patient died. Cam asks how this happened and receives condolences and apologies in response. The girl addresses the dead woman, asking her to wake up and asking how she will live without her. Watching this heartbreaking spectacle, Forrest turns to the system. He learns that he can help the girl by buying a revival pill, but it will come at a high price. Forrest becomes confused when the system makes arbitrary exchanges, spending points. As a result, the guy calms down, deciding to first save Cam's sister, and then sort out the situation. Asking the girl not to cry, Forrest says that he can save her sister, and silence reigns. The doctor becomes angry when her experience is questioned, and she repeats that the girl is dead. The guy says that in that case, he will now demonstrate a miracle to everyone. The woman is convinced that there are no means in this world that can bring someone back to life. Giving the pill to Anna, the guy says that it's all because she hasn't encountered anything like this before. He doesn't understand why nothing is happening, and Dr. Lucky asks what it was. Forrest asks her to wait until the medicine takes effect, and the woman tells him to get out. And then a miracle happens, because Cam's younger sister, getting up, says that it is too noisy around. She asks her sister what happened, and she can't stop being happy about the outcome. Lucky asks how the guy did it, to which he says it's a unique medicine. Checking the time, Forrest realizes he has less than half an hour left to live. In his mind, he addresses Cam, asking her to come to him as soon as possible and give him intimacy points. A voice nearby announces that all of Anna's indicators have returned to normal. Lucky asks again what it was, and asks to take a sample of the miracle pill for his research. Forrest asks the doctor why he should give it to her. And the woman, realizing how stupid her request sounds, groans in bewilderment. And then she says she can pay for it. Forrest clarifies her words by saying that it is not worth any money. He thinks that he sacrificed his life to buy it. Lucky asks what the guy wants in return, and the system identifies her as a new target for the contract. The woman is silent for a while, then remembers something and voices her proposal. It turns out she has many patented recipes that are worth millions. The system shows its owner a status window of the interlocutor with very useful information. When the guy has 10 seconds left to live, a brilliant plan comes into his head. He says he is ready to sign the contract, but only if Lucky is the company's chief medical officer. The woman is surprised at first, but ultimately agrees to these conditions. Forrest has 8 seconds left to live, and he asks his interlocutor to hurry. The system reports that the lifespan has increased to 10 days, and the guy breathes a sigh of relief, pulling his hand back in disbelief. Lucky now asks Forrest to fulfill his part of the agreement. The guy says he's out of pills and needs to go somewhere to get some more. Giving him a business card with the company's address, Lucky suggests meeting him there tomorrow. Forrest agrees, glad that he still has time to increase his intimacy points. Cam thanks him for saving his sister, calling him a good man, and the guy mentally retorts. When he thinks that good people don't live long, the girl stops. Bomber, standing at the head of the entire crowd, announces to everyone else that these are the ones. Cam is about to deal with the enemies, but Forrest tells her to run away. Asking to pay attention to the number of knives, the guy says that he does not want to get injured. Cam asks him why they are pursuing them if their leader, Dark, is already dead. The girl says that this cannot continue, offering to get rid of her enemies. Forrest says he has an idea and suggests that the bodyguard climb up. She asks what about him, to which the guy says he'll come up later. As they follow the girl, the pursuers rush each other and wonder where Forrest is, and he hid nearby with the rebar, giggling in anticipation and waiting for the right moment. He jumps up and says it's time to act, and puts his plan into action. As the structure begins to collapse, a girl's scream is heard from almost the very top. Falling down rapidly, the bodyguard calls Forrest a bastard. The guy asks the girl not to be afraid and says that he will catch her. Forrest jumps up and catches Cam for a softer landing and lands deftly. She admires the fact that the guy actually succeeded in this venture, and he talks about the girl's weight. Cam's intimacy increases to 100, so she reacts to this playfully. Forrest apologizes to her. The guy thinks about the abundance of gratitude points, assuming that they are also for saving Anna. There is a tense silence in the car for a while, but suddenly it is broken. The man slams his armrest and curses, calling his subordinates a bunch of idiots. Ginger is angry that such a crowd couldn't deal with just one person. Believing that Forrest's life is not yet destined to end, Bridge sets out to repay the debt. Her interlocutor doesn't like this, because in this way they themselves could be put at risk. The woman says she doesn't need anyone to remind her of this. Ginger, turning to Forrest, says that she will not allow him to return to his previous state. And Bridge, hearing all these threats from the person sitting next to him, tries to control his emotions. Lucky's voice can be heard in the hospital, giving instructions to her only listener. She says that despite the small scale, their profits are quite good. This product is called Snow Vision, and it is developed using ancient formula technologies. According to them, the drug has truly impressive effects, but with caveats. The sound of breaking glass is heard behind the couple, and both turn to look at it. Coming closer, the woman standing at the head of the gang with a bat turns to the doctor. Lily says she's going to shut down Lucky's business because she's been causing her trouble. The doctor tries to resolve everything peacefully by asking what happened, but his interlocutor doesn't like it. Showing her face, the woman says that this is the result of the innovative Snow Vision. Lily says she didn't even suspect anything like this, but continues to try to reconcile. Her nerves give out and the woman swings a bat, saying that she will kill the doctor. Forrest comes to his contractor's defense, asking Lily what she is doing. Thanking the guy for his help, Lucky says that she doesn't want to involve him, and the level of intimacy increases. Forrest says that if he leaves now, these bandits will kill the doctor. And Lily, raising her formidable weapon, says that she also wants to destroy Lucky's face. Offering to resolve everything peacefully, Forrest says that he can restore the woman's face to its original appearance. Hearing that this is possible in just 3 hours, she clicks her tongue in displeasure. And she says that she only agrees for 30 minutes, otherwise things will be tough. Lily explains that then she will not only destroy this place, but also cripple Forrest and Lucky. Later, the doctor laments his mistake, and the boy tries to think logically. Lucky admits that she has almost completely lost her sense of smell due to frequent work with medications. Forrest now understands why she didn't smell the scent coming from Lily's face. The guy asks his interlocutor if he wants to restore his sense of smell, and she answers positively. Then Forrest says that he has a secret way that will help restore the doctor's sense of smell. He thinks that it will not only return, but will also become stronger many times over. And this will be more than enough to complete the development of the necessary formula. Lucky feels the results within just a few moments. She is delighted that she can finally smell again, finding it amazing. The guy suggests that the doctor hurry up before the allotted time is up. Their intimacy grows as Lucky mentally notes the pleasant scent emanating from the man. Forrest urges the woman, asking if they can begin, and she comes to her senses. The guy thinks that now he has one more person to get points from. Now for Lucky, work that once seemed impossible looks very simple. Lily comes in to remind them that time is up and asks if they are finished. Asking her to trust him, Lucky tells his interlocutor that he will not make such stupid mistakes again. Without intending to listen to the doctor's words to the end, Lily snatches the drug from her hands. As she begins to pour it on herself, Forrest approaches the woman cautiously. He asks Lily if she is afraid that something might go wrong. She says that there is nothing to be afraid of anymore, because her face is already in a terrible state. Forrest groans when his interlocutor says that, in the worst case, he will be her posthumous companion. The next moment, the woman clutches her face, starting to hiss in pain. Along with it, the disfigured skin hisses, falling off the face, which stings intensely. But when Lily removes her hands from her cheeks, those present exclaim in admiration. Looking at the successfully cleansed face, Forrest notes the incredible beauty of the woman standing opposite. Lucky rushes towards the guy with a joyful cry that she managed to complete her recipe. This woman's closeness to Forrest immediately increases several times she thanks him. The guy just allows the thought of exchanging points for a pill when the system registers this question. There's only one left from 200, and Forrest curses in defeat. From the outside, it seems like he is talking to himself, questioning the system about its willfulness and increased price. The system informs that there was a discount last time, but now the price has become normal. Praising Lucky's skills, Lily invites the doctor to take part in a medical competition, which she clarifies. The woman admits that she wanted to do this, but she was refused at the registration stage. Lily suggests her interlocutor use a VIP, thanks to which no one will dare refuse. And Forrest, noticing the emblem, realizes that it is the prestigious emblem of the Spend family. There are no more than 10 of them in the entire city, and ordinary people cannot even imagine their full power. Lucky believes that this card is of no use, since the level of the medical academy is very high. Forrest notes that until they try it, they won't know. Lily is still unsure, but the guy gently insists on his own. Later, the doctor confidently clutches their best product in his hand, preparing to take it with him. Addressing the director of Outstanding, the woman respectfully asks him to help her. Jay tells Miss Infinity not to worry, hinting at their relationship with Mr. Senior. Approaching the reception, Lucky expresses his intention to register. Turning around, Style mockingly asks if that isn't their distinguished alumna, Cypress. She continues her insults, asking how Lucky, at her level, dares to register. The blonde tells her companion that Style is her classmate from university, and the curly-haired one whispers to Jay that this company was caught in dubious medical experiments. Hearing this, the man turns to Lucky, starting with the fact that she is not a member of the association. Therefore, she cannot participate in the competition, the woman carefully retorts, reminding him of the rules. The man shouts, saying that the woman he is talking to does not meet the requirements and is just wasting his time. Forrest starts to speak but stops, shocked by the actions and words spoken by Style. And she mockingly says that she didn't expect this from the best student of their university. Lucky asks them to show at least a little respect, because she worked very hard on the project. And then Forrest pulls himself together, shouting out an order to apologize to this woman. Turning to Jay, he repeats his demand that he apologize to Lucky immediately. The man asks if they are really going to give him their bank card, and Forrest counters. Then the interlocutor's face distorts with disgust, and he dismissively clicks his tongue. Jay reiterates his words that this woman will not participate in the competition under any circumstances. Forrest tells his interlocutor that he just threw away the Black Dragon card. Style, turning to a classmate, asks her to take a closer look at this pathetic person. The blonde suggests that her companion leave, but he thinks there is no need to rush. The guy orders the president to be called here, confident that this is the real dragon card. A voice is heard behind him, asking for what purpose he was called. This man is the president of the medical association, and he introduces himself as Light Good. Style tells him not to worry, talking about the refusal of a small company with low-quality products. To this, Light asks the staff to add these people to the blacklist, but suddenly he stops short, groaning, when he notices the black dragon card on the floor. He rushes towards it, grabbing it greedily and shouting the name of the card in disbelief. Jay reassures the owner, saying that he stepped on the object to knock the arrogant man down a peg. When asked to repeat his words, the man only manages to begin to pronounce them, because at that very moment he is called an idiot who doesn't understand anything about this matter. A confused Style, shocked by the director's behavior, cautiously asks what is going on, and Jay, whining, tells the president that it's just a regular piece of paper. Grabbing his subordinate by the lapels, Light forbids him to call this card an ordinary piece of paper. The man offers his sincere apologies, allowing the company to participate without registration. Forrest says that this organization really does a bad job, and his interlocutor apologizes for this. Lucky wonders in his mind if this card really has such impressive power, and Style wonders about the identity of the man with whom the president speaks so respectfully. Light fires Jay from the association, and he, hearing this, begs for mercy. The man asks to ignore this person's whining and to pass by, making himself comfortable. Style thinks Light is spineless, and Light says that this woman can't leave him. She asks Jay not to forget her boyfriend's name, and he promises to be faithful. Addressing her classmate, the woman condescendingly allows herself to be considered lucky, and more than once she returns to the thought that this does not mean that Lucky will win the competition. The blonde allows the mask to be washed off, but her model is wary of these words. She can't believe the mask could work so quickly and accuses Lucky of cheating. The blonde kindly asks the model to trust her, and she is taken aback by such sweet kindness. As she leaves, she still expresses disappointment that she was not chosen for the Style company, and the woman seeing the model off hears a question behind her. Is she really finished already? The competitor says that this is precisely the reason why a small company should not participate in the competition. And among the models, excited exclamations can be heard regarding the face of one of them. The next moment, quick steps are heard heading towards the blonde. The model assigned to her offers her deepest apologies for the words spoken earlier. She enthusiastically notes that the product she tested was simply amazing. Lucky herself is pleased with these words. She thanks them for them, but her rival is perplexed. And while the data from the 3 rounds is being analyzed, the presenter begins to speak. A little later, he announces who will reach the final after these 3 rounds. The first name that sounds is Tina, the company that Style is a part of. And following her, to the delight of the representatives, they name the small company Lucky. She is happy that they were able to get through it, and Forrest encourages the woman with praise. Products are blocked before the final stage begins. Preparations for the final stage are underway. When confronted by his opponent, Style says that he will never lose to her. An interior item shatters into pieces, thrown down by the hand of an enraged Fury. Style refuses to believe that Lucky can be better than she is. A man's voice is heard from behind, asking the woman what happened. Turning to face her boyfriend, Style happily shouts out his name. And then she says that she found a guy named Forrest who is going to stop her from winning. Ginger grins contentedly, glad that this guy came into his hands. He asks if the guy really knows him, and he says who this man used to be. And then Ginger, with relish, announces that now Forrest is just a stray dog. Style begins to understand why her classmate has suddenly become so self-confident. Turning to her boyfriend, she asks him to help her win, and he calms his girlfriend down. But he adds that everything depends on whether the director of Outstanding wants it. Hearing the words that Jay is ready for any consequences, the man is satisfied. Meanwhile, the final of the 8th Medical Association competition begins. Participants can choose what exactly they want to treat, such as scars, acne, or wrinkles. Style chooses the model first, inviting the girl with the scar to follow her. Remembering that this woman has the best acne treatment, Forrest becomes wary. Lucky is about to choose a model with acne, but the guy asks her to take it slow. Forrest argues that by choosing her, it will not be possible to demonstrate all the advantages, and they choose the most difficult category, causing amazement even in the model herself. Observers recall that in 7 competitions there was not a single successful wrinkle removal. And this competition is becoming truly incredible. This battle for the championship is difficult. The presenter invites you to find out what exactly this small company's choice is based on. When Lucky opens his drug, he smells a nauseating odor, and Forrest asks what's wrong. The blonde says that sulfuric acid was added to her bottle, and the guy is shocked by such meanness. An arrogant voice can be heard nearby, as if it had just noticed the problems of its opponents. Style recalls her words about Lucky not being her rival, but she threatens the pest with the police. Smiling, the woman asks if her rival has any evidence of this. Lucky is worried that they might lose, but Forrest says they shouldn't give up. The blonde considers continuation useless, because she only had 1 bottle of the drug. The guy turns to the system for help, and it recommends that he buy water from an eternal source. When asked to borrow intimacy points, she says she doesn't offer loans for small purchases. Forrest mentally apologizes to Lucky for jeopardizing their championship chances, and he goes all in, asking the blonde in a gentle voice not to cry. In his thoughts, the guy adds that instead of tears, it would be better if she gave him a few intimacy points. The system reports that the emotions experienced are not enough to earn intimacy points. Then Forrest gives the blonde a pill, promising to fulfill one more of her requests, but with one condition. In response to the woman's question, the guy replies that he wants her to be happier. The blonde's intimacy increases when she flatteringly calls Forrest by his name. Hugging a guy, a woman is delighted by his boundless kindness. Forrest is satisfied, and ahead, caustic voices full of bile can be heard. Style and Jay openly mock Lucky and her small group. But Forrest, not intending to tolerate all this, asks if his opponents are sure of their words. Meanwhile, the system reports the successful completion of the exchange and the number of remaining points. Handing the bottle to the blonde, the guy offers to use it, but she expresses some doubts. Forrest then asks her if the woman trusts him. Lucky immediately agrees. The competition reaches the part where contestants give their money to the models they have chosen. A woman with deep wrinkles takes Forrest's miracle remedy and begins massaging it into her skin. The presenter says that it will now be shown who will be the winner of today's competition. Style says that in revenge for the university, she will destroy Lucky, but she has a different opinion. The girl's skin with scars, although clearer, still did not remain without flaws, but the one who looked closer to old age now shines with the breath of youth. Everyone except Lucky and Forrest scream, expressing their utter surprise at this. Reporters and photographers, eager to get a sensation, immediately capture this moment. While going about their work, they continually make comments about the fantastic discovery. And only Style is furious, not understanding how this is possible. When asked about the product, Lucky replies that it is the company's new product. Style says this is impossible and demands that a study be conducted on the product. Forrest allows this to happen, saying that they are not at all against such a thing. Sometime later, the contestants observe the research process. Later, the host says that no problems were found and proceeds to announce the winner. To everyone's surprise, the nominee is the company Style, which surprises Lucky. The doctor instinctively asks a question, not understanding how this happened. But she understands that Style set this up. She doesn't even deny it, recalling her words. The blonde is about to say something offensive to her rival, but stops herself. She notices a figure of a man approaching them behind her. Snuggling up to Ginger, Style says that the man standing behind her is capable of anything. The brunette greets Forrest, who now understands why Style put on a show. The guy notices that his interlocutor continues to play dirty, afraid to appear in public. And while they're exchanging barbs, Lucky wonders about Forrest's true identity. Ginger, meanwhile, reminds his opponent of the situation he is in. Forrest says this guy doesn't deserve his attention to ask for help. Ginger is amazed at her interlocutor's stubbornness, saying that he has lost his head because of the loss. Addressing the host, Forrest announces his suspicion that Tina's company is using illegal substances. Style starts screaming in denial, but Ginger tells her to shut up immediately. He tells her that he bribed all the organizers, so they won't have to worry about any tests. Forrest believes that tests will not be necessary, since the Style model is the best proof of this. When the applicant's face becomes clearly visible, those present scream in shock. The skin on him looks terrible, and people talk about it openly, under the influence of emotions. Style says this is impossible, as there were no problems with the product before. Forrest acknowledges the merits of the Director of Outstanding, expressing his intention to discuss his promotion. Style becomes furious, and Jay, in response to her question, suggests that there might have been some kind of mistake. Ginger, turning to his bodyguards, says that they know what to do, and the frightened man shouts to the one who gave the order that it wasn't him. But he still confesses, saying that Styles was the one who made him do it. With the first blow to the solar plexus, the bodyguard deprives Jay of the ability to breathe. Words also come to him with great difficulty, so the man only mumbles something inarticulate. Forrest thinks that he wanted to reveal the truth publicly, but the need for it has passed. And the presenter says that now he will announce the winner of the 8th Medical Association competition. Lucky can't believe her luck when her company is announced as the winner. She tells Forrest that they won, and the guy praises the blonde. Style thinks that this is just a regular competition, and she doesn't care about it. At this time, Lucky thanks Forrest, and their closeness increases by 100 points. Later, she asks her interlocutor how he found out that competitors were going to replace the drug. The woman can't get enough of the fact that this guy helped them win. Forrest says he has his own strategist who has everything figured out. The interlocutor asks again in amazement, amazed that the guy has a personal strategist. A voice ahead says that there are a lot of reporters, making it difficult to remain unnoticed. Blue says that from afar she can only help Forrest with some plans. The guy introduces the blonde to that same strategist, thinking about the great benefit from this woman. Lucky screams, unable to believe that he is seeing the queen of business herself in front of him. Contrary to the prevailing opinion about such people, Blue expresses his joy at meeting them in a friendly manner. Joking in Forrest's manner, she says that if she is a strategist, then this guy is their emperor. The same person mentioned says that they own another medical company. Saying that everything is fine with the production of snow vision, Lucky agrees to start large-scale production. Blue gracefully insinuates herself, saying she's more interested in the water of the eternal spring. Forrest tries to gently object, thinking that this drug is too expensive. Blue agrees, but voices the difference in which the source water wins significantly. Having heard about profits of hundreds of billions in 6 months, the guy is no longer so confident in himself. When exchanging intimacy points, he says they'll start with 8 bottles and then see how they sell. Hastily shoving the funds at the bodyguard, Blue asks her to hide them before anyone sees. Forrest doesn't consider this some kind of precious treasure, and the brunette is amazed by his good nature. She says she plans to split the bottle and sell it in smaller portions, but at a higher price. Blue is confident that it will sell, and that the product will become legendary. Approaching Forrest, the woman begins to talk about the consequences of hiring her. Namely that she will help him put things in order in the business, doing everything in her power. With only 10 intimacy points, the guy is convinced that this woman is difficult to impress. A thought pops into her head, and Forrest slips out from under the businesswoman's nose. Saying that he needs to leave urgently, the guy allows the ladies to chat during this time. Once home, he admits to himself that the company of goddesses is truly stunning. Getting ready to take a shower to clear his head, the guy goes to the bathroom. Saying she's almost finished, Boat asks Forrest to wait a couple of minutes. The guy, who had once again forgotten about the existence of this girl, gasps in surprise, and she assumes that as a young master he should have seen something like this before. Forrest asks why young gentlemen can't be innocent boys. Checking the system window, the guy realizes that he only has 10 minutes left to live. But thanks to Lucky, he can now exchange the intimacy points he received from her for days of life. Remembering the illusion he emerged from earlier, Forrest wants to take a look at it while he can. The guy is very interested to know who is behind all this, and he goes into this space. Flying over the already familiar palace, Forrest is convinced that this is the very place. And a little later, he realizes that he can even open the door to find himself inside. And inside there is a high room, and something in it attracts the young man's attention especially strongly. Approaching the scrolls, the guy assumes that this is a list of everyone with whom he needs to make a contract. Taking one of them and unfolding it, Forrest sees that the list consists of 36 names. Seeing a girl named Salt, who is an actress, the guy is surprised that she is also his target. From somewhere a voice is heard asking how he dared to invade the temple of the goddesses. Turning around sharply, a question arose in Forrest's mind. Was he really not alone here? Somewhere beneath her feet she hears the barking of a small dog, and she moves closer. And then the transformation happens, and the guy screams in fear in front of this large creature. In his mind, he orders himself to take hold of his legs and run as fast as possible. When the claws get dangerously close, the guy thinks that he doesn't want to die here. A familiar voice asks what happened, asking if he had a nightmare. And Boat, saying that everything is fine, promises to be there for Forrest no matter what happens. She thinks that this guy is still young, but is already experiencing enormous pressure from those around him. Forrest asks the girl not to approach him, assuming that she does not want to pay the rent. Insulted, Boat quickly throws the first thing she can get her hands on at her offender. As she leaves, she tells her landlord that he is disgusting, and the guy calls the girl sly. When the message's ringtone sounds, Forrest reacts to it with confusion. After his bankruptcy, no one contacted him, and the guy is at a loss as to who it was. Upon learning that the class president is organizing a meeting, Forrest leaves, saying that he needs to go away. The phone catches Boat's attention with a notification, and she realizes that Forrest has forgotten it. Checking a message from a classmate, she learns that the others have set a trap for the guy. Approaching the designated place, Forrest checks the address again, and then goes inside. As he walks to the reserved VIP room, he hears the voices of his classmates from afar. One of them, noticing Forrest, notifies everyone else of his arrival. Vade asks him not to rush to sit down, because today they have special rules for seating guests. When told that it has to do with the cost of the car, Forrest names a figure higher than the one stated. Another classmate asks again and clarifies that the guy's car wasn't confiscated. Forrest says he rode the subway, which literally costs 50 million. The guy says that he knows the real reason why he was invited, but he came because of the teacher. Although his kindness was caused by the fact that Forrest's father gave the man an apartment. And while Ocean laments the fact that the plan failed, Bella asks why Forrest didn't answer. Ocean isn't going to back down that easily, so he gives a prearranged signal to his accomplice. He turns to Forrest, saying that he heard about his family's bankruptcy and fabulous debts. Hearing the mockery of the offer of help, the guy says that he owes 2 trillion. Ocean blurts out that he has no idea what Wide is talking about, and suggests they enjoy their food instead. Forrest is skeptical about these words, not believing that his classmates will really stop there. Seeing the girl appear, Wide jumps up from his seat, rejoicing at her arrival. That very actress from the list of goddesses with whom a contract must be signed apologizes for being late. Ocean asks for an introduction, saying that Salt is his girlfriend. Feeling that the stranger's touches have become more insistent, the brunette turns to her boyfriend. Ocean brags about his girlfriend, and Wide forbids Forrest from looking at her so lustfully. The redhead himself asks Salt for an autograph, saying that he is delighted with one of her films. Bella offers to pretend to be Forrest's girlfriend, but he fears for her relationship with her husband. The teacher offers to introduce him to someone, since all his students have already found a partner. The boys start teasing Forrest again, saying that it's unlikely to be possible due to debts. A motorcycle stops in front of the building, and the company sees it through the transparent windows. Guys enthusiastically note this girl's beautiful figure, considering her very hot. Wide asks if she's coming to them, and Ocean assumes that the stranger is looking for him. Only then does Cam approach Forrest, calling him sweetheart and asking why he left without her. When the guy asks her not to say stupid things, her classmates scream in shock. The teacher expresses happiness that Forrest has a girlfriend, while Ocean is mentally angry. Wide finds something to complain about here too, calling Cam's motorcycle shabby in contrast to Salt's car. The teacher agrees that the partner's capabilities greatly influence the future. Meanwhile, a car drives up to the entrance, braking with a whistling sound. Looking at Lucky, they call her beautiful and consider her car luxurious, but the woman heads back to them. Gracefully placing his hand on Forrest's shoulder, the doctor addresses his boss in a gentle voice, saying that she is having trouble with one of the formulas. Lucky asks the guy to help her. Forrest's classmates envy him, wondering why they came to him and not to them. Ocean says that having a car doesn't change anything, because Forrest can't afford a helicopter for the girl. And at that very moment, a sound is heard from somewhere above, very reminiscent of the sound of spinning blades. Forrest's classmates don't even have decent words, they just scream in shock. And then they run out into the street, asking if this is really a real helicopter. When Blue comes out, Ocean says he knows this remarkable woman. After all, she is the famous queen of business, who is currently recruiting her team. But Blue, contrary to expectations, passes by him, turning to someone dear. She tells Forrest that she hasn't had dinner yet, and asks if he's not going to invite her. Since the guy said that the headman was treating them today, Ocean gritted his teeth and offered to help himself. Bella laughs, saying that the mighty young master Sagebrush has returned. And Vade says that he now understands the saying about a starving camel that is taller than a horse. Salt thinks that this guy is impressive at least because he charmed so many girls. Speaking about loyalty, the teacher believes that no one would envy such a thing, but his classmates disagree with him. Meanwhile, the door swings open and all eyes turn to those entering inside. Saying that this room was booked by Ginger, the big guy tells everyone to leave. Vade says he doesn't know anything about that, and they came here before them, so they don't intend to give in. They hit him, saying that he talks too much, and the man from the senior group has priority. Bella believes that they cannot afford to insult this company, and the teacher agrees with her. Ocean says there is no rush, and he is an employee of the senior group. Vade and the teacher are delighted with the headman's actions, convinced of his competence. Ocean asks Ginger what branch he belongs to, but he calls himself a sales manager. The bully gets handsy again, asking what an ordinary manager thinks of himself. Running up to the headman, Bella worriedly asks if he is okay. The teacher says that they are already leaving, but another of his students speaks up. Now Forrest asks the man to take his time, saying that they were the first to occupy this room. His classmates ask him not to drag them into trouble, reminding him of his current situation. Ginger speaks as if he just noticed Forrest, confirming what these guys said. Style suggests not arguing with this loser, but asking the owner of the establishment to throw him out. Ginger tells the bodyguard to invite Miss Spend, but she says she is already here. All eyes turn to the new arrival, who speaks impartially. Lily tells the group to leave, saying she is not welcome in her establishment. Ginger laughs at Forrest, asking if he's ever been kicked out like that, and Lily says that these words were addressed not to Forrest, but to himself. Calling Forrest her respectful guest, she says that this room now belongs to him. Classmates are amazed at how this guy manages to maintain his status despite being bankrupt. Ginger is silent for a moment, trying to control her emotions, but eventually speaks. By saying that he was lucky this time, the guy predicts that this luck will not last forever. Lily advises Forrest to be careful around Ginger, and the guy thanks her for her help. It allows you to use the Black Dragon card as payment and offers good wine. Wide can't believe that even bankrupt, this guy beats them in every other way. Hearing about the Black Dragon card, Salt is mentally amazed by it. Lily, saying that it was time for her to leave, wished the company a good time. The women suspect that the owner of the establishment has feelings for Forrest or some kind of affair. The guy thinks about this, suggesting not to guess, but to wait for what will happen in the future. Ocean says his girlfriend needs to leave for filming with Face in mind. Miss Wood is stopped at the entrance, and she asks the man who stopped her what happened. With this unperturbed look, Forrest tells the girl that he wants her. Salt is confused, and Ocean asks if his classmate is trying to steal his girlfriend. But the brunette can stand up for herself, asking her interlocutor to show her a little respect. Forrest seems not to hear, asking Blue to win this girl, and the woman unconditionally agrees to this. She tells Salt that her boss liked her, and her interlocutor talks about the Queen of Business's cunning. Blue says he can help the girl take part in a show called The Octopus Game. Salt notes that it is the most popular show and asks if that is really possible. The woman replies that she can do everything possible to help the girl. Hearing the words that the winner will get the leading female role, Salt thinks. Ocean asks her not to forget that she is his girlfriend, but Blue is not so sure about that. She shares her observations, saying that Salt is an actress who was paid by the guy. The headman does not hold back his emotions, asking how the woman found out about this. Belatedly realizing it, he thinks, and catches the disapproving glances of his classmates. Vade asks why he needed to hire an actress, and Bella calls her classmate a hypocrite. Taking advantage of the moment, Forrest asks Salt if she wants to join his company. And while the girl reads the contract, the guy praises the best qualities of his strategist. The woman chuckles indignantly, and Forrest tries to understand what he said. The system reports a 15-day life increase, but there is no map due to insufficient proximity. Forrest suggests that as the number of goddesses increases, it will be more difficult to obtain intimacy points. And then he takes his goddesses away to the heartbreaking cries of his classmate, full of envy. Allowing himself to smile, Salt advises him to stop pretending to be better than others. The guy calls Forrest terrible, citing the reason that he stole his girlfriend. Once they get outside, the bodyguard says they're in trouble. Turning to Forrest, the man with the mohawk says that this time he will not run away. His subordinates are already starting to distribute who will get which beauty. And Forrest, turning to Ginger, promises to show him what he is capable of. He thinks that he can't run away forever, because there are more and more people who need to be protected. The guy is going to show his enemy how strong he can be, and rushing towards his opponents, Forrest begins to swing his fists. Left alone, Iroquois says that the enemy was lucky last time. Punching him in the face, Forrest asks if he really thinks things will be different now. And while the man flies back, the guy prepares for the divine fist. And then, without allowing the blonde to come to his senses, he produces a whole series of quick blows. Forrest tells the henchmen to return to their master and tell him that he will find out the truth about everything. The guy is going to destroy his enemy, even if he becomes the head of the entire city. Kicking Bomber furiously, Ginger curses, calling him and his gang idiots. The leader justifies them by saying that they did not know about Forrest's devilish power. Reaching towards the table, Ginger gropes for the first thing that comes to hand. He almost screams as he continues to insult the man with the mohawk, because he finds it disgusting that he is still trying to justify himself and the gang. Saying that he is worse than a dog, Ginger orders Bomber to kneel before him. Grace, appearing out of nowhere, asks what has made him so angry. Sitting down in a chair, the man pulls himself together, trying to calm down, and speaks up. He asks who invited them, and Grace confirms it was Haystrong. Wave greets Ginger, and the woman introduces him, calling him the best killer. The man likes this, and talks about rumors about the actress being invited to participate in the show. And, giggling evilly, Ginger suggests that everyone go there together too. Forrest asks if this is where the show is being recorded, and Salt confirms this. They ask him what the young master of the Sagebrush family is doing in such a place. Puzzled, Forrest, in turn, asks what his interlocutor is doing here. Ginger asks why he shouldn't come if his entertainment company is well known. A trainee singer disparages the show for inviting any women. A girl passing by screams with joy at the sight of her idol. She is Fly Outstanding, who is also known as the Queen of Cinema. Forrest asks about the fame of these two, and the girl briefly tells about these celebrities. The guy asks her not to worry, but to just go with the flow, since they are here anyway. Salt wonders silently how Forrest can be so confident in this situation. The host in an octopus costume greets everyone and begins to explain the rules of the show. In the first round, actors and managers must do push-ups with the person above or below them. Ginger offers the queen to become her partner, but she refuses, seeing no need for it. When a new guest enters the room, those who were waiting for her scream with delight. As soon as he sees Bridge, Fly is the happiest of all that this woman is finally here. Forrest asks why she is here, and the actress is surprised by this, but answers the question. Reluctantly, the guy admits that he owes this woman a decent amount of money. The host announces the start of the round when everyone takes their places and determines their positions. Bridge performs the task with difficulty, making an effort to contain his emotions. She eventually bursts into laughter, finding the pose too funny. Reaching 183, Wave says he can't take it anymore and suggests changing the situation. Readily fulfilling his wish, the intern allows him to continue. Salt also asks her boss to change her position, to which he politely asks if she is sure. The girl confirms this, fearing that otherwise they might lose. Then Forrest agrees to these conditions, and Salt, meanwhile, makes adjustments. She asks the guy not to bend over too low, saying that it will embarrass her. Forrest tries to follow this, crossing the 188 mark. Spectators watching this spectacle make obscene comments, questioning the legality of the show. The man struggles with himself with all his might, trying not to pay attention to this boy. But his patience runs out as soon as he sees his face again, and Wave gives in. Asking why the boy is blushing, the man says that he is not actually gay. Forrest, noticing this, suggests that they have won. In her joy, the girl pulls her partner towards her, glad that they did it. Ginger smirks dismissively, saying that they can only dream of that. He continues by saying that it is a show, not a competition, and the audience doesn't really care about the results. Salt thinks it's unfair because they tried so hard, and Forrest has an idea what's going on. He says that if they want to win, they have to try harder. The presenter announces that the second competition is called Sharik. According to the rules, you must pop the balloon within the specified time, otherwise you will be expelled. The aspiring singer fearfully asks his partner what he is going to do, and the viewers on the other side of the screens curse Wave for hurting their idol. Most men consider a team of two women to be the best and very hot. Looking at them, I just want to call this couple to action, looking at this torment. Bridge carefully, trying to make sure no one notices, resorts to trickery. And even though it is a scam, the sight of these laughing women can leave few people indifferent. Forrest thinks there's something wrong with the ball because he's pushing it with all his might. Ginger mentally rejoices, because on his orders the balls were replaced with high-strength ones. He is confident that even if they are squeezed for an eternity, they will not burst. Salt gasps, asking Forrest to be gentle, and the audience says they can't watch anymore. The guy is still trying to understand why the balloon doesn't burst. Meanwhile, the intimacy with the goddess increases. The girl says she can't take it anymore and her legs give way. The guy politely asks her to be patient a little longer, without stopping his attempts. Realizing that things can't go on like this, Forrest decides to take a desperate step. Sharply yanking the girl towards himself, he presses her to himself with all his strength, achieving the desired result. Some viewers think Forrest is a daredevil, while others are amazed at how they managed to do it. Ginger doesn't understand what secret weapon Forrest used to achieve his success. And while Salt is happy, the guy can't understand why it was so difficult. Giggling, the girl praises her partner, saying that he tried hard. He asks her not to joke, Salt says he's serious, and their intimacy level continues to grow. The system reports that the required indicator has been reached and gives the guy a reward, and he reasons. The host announces that the final will be tomorrow and asks the participants to have a good rest. Saying that she has heard that this place serves good food, Salt invites Forrest to dinner. Wave asks if he needs to take care of the couple, which is what Ginger wanted. Addressing the heir of the senior family, Bridge asks if everything is all right with his head. She only asks to imagine how society will react if these two do not appear tomorrow. Ginger thanks the woman for the reminder, but he still considers Forrest a nuisance. Bridge says that to win you don't need to use assassins. There is one trick. The next day, managers have to guess the story their artists are telling. For correctly guessing the story within the set time, a card will be awarded. The presenter suggests starting, but is asked to hold off in a loud tone. Forrest asks to throw the cards into the box and shuffle them to make everything fair. The host starts to hesitate, and the guy continues to hesitate, talking about the show's reputation. Confused, the man seeks support and receives it in the person of Mrs. Bridge. And then, calling the idea good, the presenter says that he will follow the participants' advice. But he still cheats, not fulfilling his promise completely and pretending to draw a new card. The presenter says that since the idea belonged to their team, they will start. The painting turns out to be a lady crying in front of their country's most famous building. The girl tries to pretend it, but she doesn't know how to cry, so it comes out terrible. Forrest thinks for a long time before asking about constipation, doubting that such a picture exists. And while the girl is trying to figure out what to do, the audience begins to recognize her. The other participants also join in the pantomime, depicting their pictures. As the queen of cinema, Fly has no trouble conveying what she wants. Even though this guy is just an intern, after some effort he can do it too. Anticipating defeat, Forrest asks his partner to show him more clearly. He doesn't give up, expressing confidence that she can perform the roles better. Bridge advises Forrest to give up and stop striving for the championship, because things are not so bad as they are. But the guy doesn't even think about giving up, which he declares to his interlocutor. And, playing the card, Forrest says that he will grant the girl the spirit of acting in his name. For the audience, it's all staged and pathetic, but not for the goddesses who have signed their contracts. And at that very moment, something wet rushes down the girl's cheek. And Salt's performance at that moment turns out to be the pinnacle of her skill, something she has never shown before. That is why it is now easy for Forrest to guess the picture hidden behind the pantomime. The guy solves the second riddle just as successfully and much faster than the previous one. The third and subsequent ones are also dealt with by the partners in no time, to the envy of their rivals. Viewers watching this cannot help but notice how Salt has revealed her acting potential. The opponents are no less amazed, not believing that a newcomer can transition to the role with such ease. Because of this, Salt's vote totals are practically superior to those of her competitors, and continue to increase. An enraged Ginger calls the right people, ordering them to manipulate the voices of his assistant. And suddenly the number of people voting for the aspiring singer increases rapidly. Opening a bottle of champagne that appeared out of nowhere, Ginger rejoices in her victory. But his opponent smirks, saying that he is doing it too early. Forrest reminds us that guest cards can also be exchanged for votes. But Ginger is not impressed with this idea, because he thinks the gap is too huge. But here the system is slightly different, and each card brings 10,000 votes. Hearing that Salt now has almost 2 million of them, Ginger can't help but curse. Forrest addresses him, saying that the man thinks too highly of himself. He asks the boy how many cards they have, and he says 3. When the host starts announcing the votes, Ginger's face falls, and a joyful Salt rushes to her partner with the words that they have won. As the girl's intimacy grows, Forrest thinks that he hit the jackpot on glasses today. At the exit they are met by Bridge, who asks why this guy doesn't want to listen to her. Forrest says he has always run away in the past, which ultimately ended in disaster. The woman retorts, noting that the path the guy is choosing is too thorny and dangerous. But he doesn't care. He says that even if that's the case, he will walk this path firmly. Realizing that there is no point in arguing with this stubborn ram, Bridge leaves, clicking his tongue in disappointment. Salt notes that their relationship seems deeper than just debtor and creditor, Forrest explains. It turns out that they were childhood friends, and the girl teases her interlocutor, who retorts. The boy recalls that back then he was only interested in literature, but now he understands his father. Turning to the girl, who for some reason has become suspiciously silent, Forrest stops short. And indeed, she is not around, which makes the guy start looking around. Forrest angrily asks why the hell bomber kidnapped Salt right in front of him. Jumping up, he asks if the blonde really wants to compete with him in speed. But when they turn the corner, there's an open van, and Forrest tenses. Salt warns his boss not to go in because there is a strange smell inside. But he is already stepping on the edge, saying that this is nonsense, because he is obliged to save this girl. And just as the guy makes his way deeper, the doors clang shut, and then the truck takes off, not allowing those inside to maintain their balance. Bomber asks to open the doors because he is not outside yet. He needs to go out. Ginger, apologizing to Bomber, says that he will go with them until the issue is resolved. As Forrest begins to attack Iroquois, he asks him what those bastards are up to. Saying that everything will end soon, the man asks if the guy doesn't feel weak. And then, listening to his feelings, Forrest really notices something strange. Salt apologizes to her boss, who tells her not to worry, saying that everything will be fine. The girl finds these words touching. No one has ever said anything like this to her, so she decides to open up. As a child, when she asked her mother to feed her, she responded rudely, often starving her. In vain, the little girl tried to hold back her tears, saying that she missed her daddy very much. But the cruel woman literally burned this ability out of the girl, forbidding her to cry. Mother didn't just threaten, she carried out her threats, burning holes in Salt. Forrest admits that he never thought that the girl could have such a childhood. But now, says Salt, thanks to this guy, she has that opportunity again. Sometime later, the van stops and is emptied, unloading the hostages. Ginger, turning to Forrest, praises his perseverance and now offers to evaluate his work. Wave carries out his customers' orders precisely, confident in the success of his work. And Ginger, of course, stands nearby and enjoys the fact that she is getting rid of her problem. Wave asks about Bomber's fate, and his interlocutor replies that he sees no point in messing around with trash. Meanwhile, Forrest comes to his senses and quickly holds his breath, not allowing water to fill his lungs. In his mind, he thanks the system for the gift cards it gave him. Thanks to one of them, the guy manages to easily get rid of the rope. His gaze wandering across the water, he comes across Salt, who is still unconscious. And since every second brings her closer to death, the guy rushes to save the girl. As Forrest approaches, he begins to carefully examine Salt, checking for damage. Having made sure that she is unconscious, the guy allows himself to take the girl in his arms. Realizing that she can't last much longer, Forrest shares oxygen with Salt. A little later, slowly opening her eyes, the first thing the girl sees is a familiar silhouette. Asking if she died, Salt is told that they both survived. Intimacy increases. The guy moves forward with the firm intention that he will deal with Ginger once and for all. But to carry out his plan, he needs information, and Forrest grabs the unconscious Bomber. Starting to beat him, the guy tells the man to wake up, and it works. He is perplexed by what is happening. Finally coming to his senses, Bomber cries out, asking how Forrest managed to survive. He orders his victim to reveal Ginger's location, otherwise he will pay with his life. Hearing the words that the blonde will never betray the boss, Forrest strikes back. The guy lets the man go to convey his intentions for revenge. Iroquois threatens the offender. A few hours later, the man finds himself at one of Ginger's secret hideouts. As he breaks in, he shouts out that Forrest is going to kill his boss. Ginger says that this information is out of date, as he has already taken care of that thorn. Bomber is puzzled, saying that this splinter literally beat him up a few hours ago. Ginger tenses, his gaze changes, and he says that it is impossible. The next moment there is the sound of a door being knocked down and someone breaks in. Forrest chuckles at the confusion on Ginger's face and asks if he's surprised. Bomber asks how he knew his boss was here, and the said boss calls him a moron, explaining. Ginger grabs the remote from her jacket pocket and presses the panic button. And as soon as the guards appear, he orders them to immediately take this man away from here. Forrest just grins loudly as he sees his opponents rushing towards him. And starting to strike them blow after blow with his stunning strength, the guy tells the men to get lost. When Ginger sees how quickly his bodyguards fly off in different directions, he gets scared. And Forrest, already very close, offers to finish what was long overdue. Wave shields his boss and admits that the boy's survival came as a surprise even to him. It suddenly dawns on Forrest who this man is, and he clarifies it. The man answers veiledly, but even without that his intention is quite clear. Forrest says that this speed is nothing to him, and asks if he killed Dark. Wave confesses and states the reason why he did it, namely, to shut the boy's mouth. Taking a step back, Forrest bumps into something and turns around to take in the situation. Wave, rushing towards him, literally screams words about how he is going to kill his opponent. Forrest is not going to allow this, so a dagger materializes in his hands. Wave is taken aback when he realizes that this kid somehow managed to break the steel sword. Taking advantage of his opponent's confusion, Forrest makes a lunge, wishing his opponent a quick death. Seeing all these atrocities, Ginger offers to talk calmly to the person approaching him. Forrest smirks coldly, reminding him of how many times this man had wanted to kill him. Asking if he really thinks they can come to an agreement, the guy attacks. Ginger offers to write off his entire debt just so Forrest will spare him. His opponent pauses and hesitates, calling the offer very tempting. Ginger, meanwhile, says that Grace sent assassins to eliminate Forrest's maid. And while the man says that he doesn't know the reason for this, the guy gets seriously scared. Calling Ginger a bastard, Forrest is about to strike, but is asked to stop. This man turns out to be the police officer we already know, Sauce Chain. Ginger asks her to save him, but the woman tells her interlocutor to shut up. By pausing, Forrest allows the man to consider himself lucky. The officer asks what's going on here, and the guy tells how he was attacked by a killer. And then he continues, saying that for this reason he himself had to kill this man. Hearing that Forrest defended himself, the woman lets the guy go, advising him to be more careful in the future. The woman had just gotten out of the pool and had managed to throw a towel over herself. As a shiver runs down her spine, Boat becomes puzzled by the strange feeling. Thanks to her alertness, she manages to react in time and is unharmed. And two more killers jump out of the bushes, forcing the killer to take a step back. The assassins launch two synchronized attacks from different sides, and Boat manages to avoid both of them. When landing, the woman shifts to the side, not staying in one place for long. Golden Assassin Peregrine states the fact that Boat has betrayed their organization. The Golden Killers, Black and White, remain silent, but they stand in solidarity with the words of their predecessor. Boat thinks frantically, noticing that, on top of everything else, she doesn't have any weapons. Just when she allows herself to think that this is the end, something unexpected happens. Out of nowhere, a dagger enters Black's hand at full speed. Boat joyfully shouts out the name of her savior, who asks her to be careful. Picking the woman up without warning, the guy tells her that they are leaving here. The Peregrine Falcon opens fire, but not a single bullet can catch the pair off guard. Forrest's speed is so impressive, and his movements so precise that he has no trouble dodging. Sapsan is amazed at such great speed, asking how the guy managed to dodge all the shots. To confuse the enemy and try to escape, you have to move through the labyrinth. Boat asks the guy to let her go, and Forrest asks the woman if she is okay. The killer allows herself to joke, asking if he really wants to examine her. Forrest suggests they do this later, because now they need to hide from their pursuers. The next moment, there is a rustling sound behind them, and the guy acts immediately. He turns off the previously planned path, hiding in the shadow of one of the labyrinth's hedges. And the killers appear almost immediately, landing in the very place where the couple had previously been. Black, looking around carefully, asks White where they disappeared to. His partner remains silent even when the man says that it would be unlikely that they would have been able to get far. And then it dawns on the woman that these two might be hiding in the nearby bushes. Forrest quickly covers Boat's mouth, shielding her with his body, anticipating a potential threat. Having not found anything suspicious, Black suggests checking in a slightly different place, As he descends onto Forrest with relief, Boat is pleased that they have managed to remain undetected. The guy suggests that she move on, saying that he has an idea on how to deal with the enemies. Forrest moves in a certain direction. The woman follows him, covering his rear. Finally, they reach the place they need and get inside. While examining it, Boat asks where they are, to which he receives the answer that this is Forrest's secret base. The guy shares that as a child when he played hide-and-seek, he often came here. The woman smiles, stating the fact that the rich have their own quirks. By clicking the mouse and adjusting the cameras, Forrest brings up images of the golden killers on the screens. The woman believes that these people made a fatal mistake by coming to this place. Boat says she'll take the earpiece so her partner can tell her the location of Black and White. But it's not that simple because there are others besides them, which Forrest tells the woman. And the next moment the guy sees how a woman's hand cuts the neck of one of the stragglers. And then the body disappears into the bushes while the deceased's partner is busy searching for his targets. When he finally notices the loss, Boat is silently behind him. And by making just one small incision, the woman eliminates her next target. Forrest continues to tell her the location of the remaining uninvited guests. The guy thinks, puzzled, that in comparison to them, this woman looks more like a killer. As he watched Boat's movements, they suddenly began to seem suspiciously familiar to him. Involuntarily, the man's hand moves towards the woman's face, covering its lower part, and then a memory bursts into his head, and Forrest realizes that it was she who killed him. But in contrast to this, other memories of the maid's flirtations begin to flash before my eyes. Meanwhile, Sapson takes his former colleague by surprise, and she is at a loss for a few moments. The woman on the other side of the screen screams, and Forrest jumps up in a wave of emotion, and he decides to take a desperate action, running out of his secret room and shouting that he is already coming. Belaya's voice, saying that he won't go anywhere, comes from somewhere above. Realizing it was an ambush, the guy says they were unlucky to have met him. This does not stop the killer, and with a warlike cry, she rushes straight towards her target. Black ends up behind, just like his partner, wishing death on Forrest. And the next moment the boy parries White's attack with his dagger, deftly dodging. This allows him to face the second opponent, and parry just as successfully. But Forrest has a plan, so once he gets behind his enemy, he throws a dagger at the same time. And he hits the intended target exactly, leaving one opponent less. Calling Forrest a bastard, White sets out to avenge her partner. However, her speed is not enough. The woman is too slow for her opponent. Watching her fall, Forrest says that the members of the Ocean Society must die. Meanwhile, Sapson is having fun with her former colleague, declaring that this is the end for her. The woman asks not to touch Forrest, saying that he is just an ordinary guy. The man agrees, saying that he will not touch this boy. Then Boat allows her to be killed because she wants to see what death looks like. But Forrest has a different opinion and tells the Golden Killer to stop. Peregrine Falcon, puzzled that this guy is still alive, orders him not to move. Forrest follows orders, asking to be taken to the boss, because he believes that he is more interesting than Boat. Sapson says that the boy is too dangerous, and asks him to stab himself in the leg. Forrest doesn't even think twice before agreeing to this. The guy actually does stab himself, doing it without the slightest hesitation. Sapson is taken aback by this, and from the overabundance of emotions, even takes an inertial step back. Boat screams at Forrest, begging him by all the gods not to risk it for her. And the guy asks the woman not to worry, assuring her that everything will be fine. Then Sapson turns to his subordinates, ordering them to drag the wounded man to their boss. Unable to do anything about it, the former killer calls Forrest a hopeless fool. When the couple is dragged to the required location, a woman appears in front of them. Grace addresses Boat by her real name, suggesting she didn't expect this outcome. Forrest is surprised to hear the woman's name, and she apologizes for not saying it earlier. But this guy's thoughts are elsewhere. He remembers that a contract can be concluded with Boat Neck. Grace chuckles, saying that not only did this woman not give her real name. Boat asks not to say this, and the interlocutor asks about the reason. The woman says that she wants this guy to have only a good opinion of her. Grace asks if she's really hoping for romance by joining her assassin society. She herself doesn't think so, saying that she intends to make Boat suffer. Grace turns to Forrest, saying that this woman is her best killer, who shot him. Overcoming physical pain, Boat asks the guy not to listen to his former boss. To everyone's surprise, Forrest expresses delight at the fact that his maid is a murderer. Grace becomes angry, thinking that the two are lovers, and decides to take the next step. She's about to throw them into the meat grinder, and the guy screams, trying to appeal to the woman's voice of reason. Seeing that Boat has gone to Dreamland, Forrest begins to seriously panic. When he is told to climb into the meat grinder, the guy comes to the conclusion that it is time to act. The system reports that its user has successfully purchased the healing ointment. When he is fully recovered, he makes only one sharp movement. And these two don't even have time to understand how the prisoner managed to pull all this off. Meanwhile, Forrest says he doesn't need any more answers. Turning to the culprit of all this, the guy says that she shouldn't have messed with him. Peregrine Falcon comes to his mistress's defense, asking how the boy is still standing. Taking advantage of the fact that all eyes are on Forrest, Boat takes action. Grabbing the gun from the knocked-out victim, she shoots Sapson in the arm, causing him to drop the weapon. Meanwhile, Forrest leans forward, running into his opponent and concentrating on the blow. Putting all his strength into the attack, the guy knocks a scream out of the enemy, throwing him back. As the Peregrine Falcon flies off to Grace's feet, the boy watching turns to her. Forrest asks how she is connected to the Ocean Society, but the woman refuses to talk about it. Then, jumping up, the guy announces his intention to kill her. Laughing haughtily, the woman asks if he really thinks it will be that easy. Although at first he doesn't want to fight these girls, their skill changes his mind. However, despite this, Forrest realizes that his divine fist is useless against the maids. Boat comes to the rescue, announcing his intention to help the boy. All this time, Forrest tries to evade these nimble girls, constantly moving. As Grace pushes off the floor to jump, she says that Boat's shooting skills have become atrocious. Shouting out his maid's name, Forrest rushes to her aid, promising to save her. Grace, however, steps forward, advising the guy not to underestimate women. Catching someone else's leg mid-flight, Forrest agrees that she has some strength. He doesn't manage to finish speaking because Grace does something that the guy couldn't expect from her. She doesn't even make a leg grab, as he thought for a moment, but she deftly dodges. Giggling melodically, Grace asks if the guy knows who the best killer in their society is, and proudly declaring that it is she, the woman promises to deal with Forrest. He inevitably begins to move his hands randomly over the woman's body. And then Grace gasps, shrilly asking what this pervert is going to do. Squeezing her thighs tighter, the woman orders him to stop touching her body. And from these awkward movements of both of them, they fly apart in different directions, hitting each other painfully. Boat hurries to his landlord, asking solicitously if he is okay. And then the woman tells him that Grace has a special technique for fighting with her feet. She, meanwhile, angrily rushes forward, ordering the two to accept their fate. The sight of this sight makes Forrest's blood pressure rise, and he tries in vain to cope with it. Boat says that if she had known he liked this kind of thing, she would have let him watch it too. And then the woman explains that the happiest moment in her life is meeting him. Even though their meeting was short, she is now ready to die without regrets. Grace is furious at being bullied even while on death's door, and when she attacks with the intent to kill both, the system sends a notification. By making a contract with the goddess, Forrest gains Eagle Eye and instant kill. The latter concentrates all the force in the finger, which allows it to break stones and cut iron. Eagle vision allows one to see the smallest details at a great distance. The previously confident Grace lets out a stunned scream as she flies backwards. She asks in disbelief how Forrest managed to stop her foot with just one finger. Inspired by his success, the guy says that his finger is now quite strong. And Grace gives the order to her maids to kill this impudent fellow, and they carry out the order immediately. Noticing that they easily dodge her shots, Boat suggests that Forrest run away. But the guy refuses, intending to enhance his goddess as well. Boat cries out in delight, saying that for some unknown reason she can now see clearly. Using her new ability, the woman enthusiastically begins shooting at targets. A miracle occurs as each of her blows reaches its target. The maids only have time to scream in pain, noting the enemy's amazing accuracy. And Boat, inspired by Eagle Eye, promises never to miss again. Forrest asks the woman to calm down, saying that he needs to do something. And she wonders what brilliant idea the guy came up with this time. And then Boat asks what he did to her back, because her vision improved dramatically after that. Forrest says he has good medical skills, and after that their intimacy increases. When Boat kisses him, the system sums up the total number of points, which turns out to be 150. The woman apologizes for her previous infirmity, and the guy offers to make amends. Boat asks him how he wants her to do it. And when Forrest starts listing the outfits he wants to see her in, he asks the guy to wait. Looking at Boat's confused face, he thinks that each of the goddesses had problems. The guy comes to the conclusion that there are no perfect people in our world. Recalling that there were about 36 contracts, Forrest asks that there be no unpleasant smell there. Roughly pushing Grace to her knees, Boat asks if he should throw her in the meat grinder and is given permission. The woman's expression changes, asking to wait and saying that she is ready to cooperate. Desperate, she shouts out words that she has an idea that can help Forrest. The guy says that he is interested and asks his interlocutor to speak. She waits until Forrest sits down in a chair, collecting his thoughts. Grace says a vacancy has opened up in the organization after the death of a member. After she offers the guy to take her, he carefully grabs the woman by the chin, and then he rudely says that she should know how deep his resentment towards her damned company is. The sooner Forrest gets rid of all of its members, the easier his life will be. Grace chuckles, asking if the other man really thinks Ocean destroyed his family. Forrest jerks his hand away as if from fire, clarifying what exactly this woman means. Grace says the Assassin Society was just following orders, but she doesn't know anything else. Forrest ponders this, trying to understand just how powerful a force is controlling everything. As he gets up, the boy asks why he should be sure that Grace really wants to help him. The woman says that she will remember his mercy, promising to follow him and obey him from now on. Saying he finds it hard to believe, Forrest enters into a forced contract with Grace. The system informs that if the target is not a goddess, the contract may be cancelled. However, upon reading, it is revealed that Grace is the Jade Goddess, and the contract is made. Saying she's in pain, the woman asks what the guy did to her, and he starts issuing warnings. Hearing the words that if her master betrays her, she will die, Grace calls Forrest a scoundrel. And the guy, pushing her, reminds her that it was they who made him become like this. When he ends up being harmless before, Grace becomes frightened and asks a question. Receiving no answer, the woman silently prays for the guy to finish quickly. However, the next moment Grace feels the grip on her hands weaken. And, leaving, the guy says that he is not interested in her, but he expects good news from her. Grace says she doesn't believe Forrest is such a noble person. Later, at his villa, the guy rejoices after he gets rid of the smell of blood. Someone addresses him from the side, and Forrest turns his blissful gaze to the speaker. Boat says it's time to go to bed, and the guy screams, thinking that no one could stand something like that. Forrest tries to retreat, saying that he didn't wash himself well, and the woman is going to help him. Confused by such fierce pressure, the guy asks Boat to calm down, and the woman, freeing him from his clothes, moves on to more active actions. She says the more he resists, the more it turns her on. Before leaving a kiss on a man's lips, a woman calls him sir. Forrest can't take the pressure anymore, so he just gives in. The next day, the guy admits that he didn't expect this from Boat. Seeing how she pounced on him, Forrest thought that this woman was experienced, but it turned out to be the opposite. Boat says she's willing to serve this guy to the death because he saved her life. Forrest reminds us that he has many enemies, and it is dangerous to be around him. The woman says that she is ready to accept death, but only with her savior. Forrest asks why she went up there, and Boat replies that she wants to pick up where they left off. There is a knock on the door, and a familiar voice announces that its owner is entering. Carrying out his threat, Blue asks why Forrest hasn't gotten up yet. The guy hesitantly says that he is too tired from last night. The woman clarifies this point. And then she brushes off her own words, saying that she needs to tell the guy something. Boat, who is under the blanket at this moment, is trying not to even breathe. The woman asks what's wrong, and the guy gives the first answer that comes to mind, saying that he's not wearing pants. Blue's intimacy increases. She thinks he's flirting with her, and Forrest tries to change the subject. The woman says she discovered debts in her accounts, and wants to discuss this issue with her boyfriend. Thinking about this, Forrest begins to reason, and then says that he will figure it out himself. Handing over a contract from one of the companies, the woman says that their address is listed on it. As she leaves, she says that she has agreed to talk with the president of the Chamber of Commerce about cooperation. Noticing that the guy has relaxed, the woman allows herself a little liberty. Pulling the blanket off of Forrest, she asks little Forrest to appear. For a while, the woman looks at the picture that opens up in surprise. And when it gets to her, the system reports that the proximity is reduced by 20 units. Having established the fact that they are sleeping together, Blue leaves, and Boat asks her to wait. Forrest stops the woman, saying that he will talk to her about this himself. Boat asks how the guy is going to negotiate with the company, since it is headed by a serious person. The guy is going to try it first, and if it doesn't work out, he'll move on to more active action. When Forrest goes to this company, he takes her and his bodyguard with him. One of the large men at the entrance asks who they are, and Forrest notices that they are not welcome. The second big guy asks why they came here, since they won't be able to talk to their president. Then, without thinking twice, the bodyguard decides to act before her opponent. The second woman also joins her colleague in showing solidarity. Cam explains his actions by saying that he doesn't like a lot of empty chatter. The man says that if she pleases him, he will pay half the bill for the company. The president reminds that half is 50 million, which is already a decent amount. Interrupting him mid-sentence, the door swings open and uninvited guests enter. The man asks who they are and why they have come to see him. Forrest says he came to get his money back. Recognizing his interlocutor, the man says that he has already prepared the money. The guy asks incredulously. Scattering bills, this impudent fellow offers to take this money to buy a coffin. Boat becomes angry when she hears that the president is threatening to kill her man. And the guy starts talking about how his assets were frozen and his villa was under arrest. The man asks what this brat can do to him if he is from the Yellow family. Continuing, he suggests that he be as obedient as this woman if he wants a favor. Suddenly, a lustful gaze finds two beauties, and Yellow says that he didn't even notice them. Boat says he already wants to return to his old profession, and the bodyguard agrees. The guy says he'll consider returning the money if he gets these beauties for 3 days. He is ready to pay 1 billion as a deposit right now. Rizulia asks him to pay her, ready to accompany him for 3 months, and the man thinks about it. Forrest asks her if they really know each other. So why is this woman trying to stop him? Cam says that he knows her, and the redhead replies that she will interfere with her as long as she can. The bodyguard says that this girl tried to set her up, but she failed. Redhead ups the ante, saying she's willing to stay with Yellow until he pays Cam. The bodyguard is irritated, finding this sycophant and vindictive person incredibly disgusting. A man says he doesn't have enough women, and asks two beauties to accompany him for 10 days. Boat approaches Forrest, asking if they can begin, and Forrest agrees. Approaching Mr. Yellow, she asks if he can handle at least her alone. He agrees, confident that he can handle this woman with ease. Boat's tone turns serious as she asks this horny dog to watch very closely. Calling him a pervert, the woman swings harder and delivers a crushing blow. Forrest winces instinctively when he sees this heartbreaking picture, and Yellow tries to restrain himself, but a wild scream bursts from his throat literally a moment later. Red, hoping to get something out of it, asks how dare Boat hit Mr. Yellow. The bodyguard approaches, asking if she really wants to get it herself. Yellow asks a professional bodyguard to get rid of the enemies, and she agrees. But her bravado doesn't last long, as her colleague lands one sure blow. Cam finds it funny when someone like that boasts about other people's achievements. Redhead says that for insulting the Yellow family, the three will not be able to leave this corporation alive. Cam hits his rival again, telling her to shut up, while the president comes up with a plan. By pressing the emergency call button, the man orders everyone to be gathered urgently. He is about to add something else, but someone grabs him by the hair, pulling him away from the phone. Boat says in an ominous tone that the time has come when his dirty deeds will come to an end. Forrest asks her not to kill the man, and the woman apologizes, saying it's a habit. A voice comes from behind the door, ordering everyone to freeze in place. The guy is amazed at the efficiency of the security. Forrest says he'll deal with them, allowing the ladies to have fun inside with the president and his bodyguard. When both beauties turn to him, Yellow asks what they are going to do. As he goes outside, Forrest clearly hears heartbreaking male screams behind him. Looking around at his opponents, the guy notices that there are quite a lot of them gathered here. But this doesn't upset him. On the contrary, Forrest only wants to get rid of everyone at once. And concentrating the energy in his fist, the guy delivers the first blow, breaking those standing closest to him. After this, he rushes to the very center, starting to scatter opponents in different directions from there. He feels like he's stronger than he was before, and Forrest wonders what stage he's at. The system reports that the owner is at the bronze stage, which is equivalent to a martial arts grandmaster.